Okay, so I'm going to do a demo on all the tools you need for your robot. I'm going to start with the letter M. That is the rectangle tool. And so how the rectangle tool works, I'm going to make a colored shape here with no stroke. Okay. And with the rectangle tool, if I click and drag, wherever I click from, it will make a rectangle. And I can make a really wide and not very tall, or really tall and not very wide. And just wherever I let go, it's going to make a rectangle. And I clicked from the left and dragged down. If I click from the top right and drag down to the left, it will drag that way. If I click and drag and hold shift, it will make a perfect circle, or square rather. If I let go of the shift key before I quit dragging, it will not be a perfect square. I can then hold shift again. I've got to let go of my mouse or my trackpad before I let go of shift. And I'm going to hit Command U to get rid of the smart guides that were interfering. So that's a perfect square. If I hold the Alt key on a PC or the Option key on a Mac, it will drag from the center again. And if I hold Shift, it will make a perfect square. And so that's the rectangle tool. So we need to have a perfect square. Here's the thing about making a perfect square or a perfect circle. Once I decide to scale that, I'm going to hit the letter V, and I want to scale that. And so on the four corners of this shape, we have what's called a bounding box. And I can grab that bounding box and scale it. So I want it to be smaller. And so there, I made my perfect square smaller. Is it a perfect square anymore? No. And so in Illustrator and InDesign, when I scale, I must hold the Shift key. The Shift key will constrain the aspect ratio, the X, which is the horizontal, and the Y, which is the vertical aspect. And so I've got to do that or it will scale it. So that's how to make a perfect square. And you may, when you may start with a perfect square, and then when you're composing your robot together, scale it, and then you don't have a perfect square anymore. So when you scale something, make sure you hold the Shift key. Okay, that's the letter M. That's the rectangle tool. Okay, I'm gonna hit the letter L next. And if you notice, the rectangle tool and the ellipse tool, they're in the same panel here. The same ellipse tool, the ellipse tool is under the rectangle tool, and it works very much like the rectangle tool. The ellipse tool, if I click and drag down, it's going to make an ellipse. If I click and drag from the other direction, it'll make an ellipse. If I hold the Alt or Option key, it will drag from the center. If I hold the Shift key, it will make a perfect circle. Again, if I let go of the Shift key before I let go of the mouse, it will, or the trackpad, it will not make a perfect circle. So I got to let go of the mouse or the Shift key before I let go of the, I've got to let go of the mouse or the trackpad before I let go of the Shift key. So it works very similar to the rectangle tool. Again, I also I can make a perfect circle with the live corner widget from a rectangle. So that's how to make a perfect circle. Again, I can start with a perfect circle, and then when I try to scale it, forget to hold Shift, and then all of a sudden I don't have a perfect circle. So I've got to do that. So perfect square, perfect circle, I just got to remember to hold the Shift key whenever I'm doing that. So perfect circle, check. Perfect square, check. Equilateral triangle. That's the polygon tool, and that's hiding under the ellipse tool, polygon tool. And this one, if I option click, it's going to, or alt click on a PC, it's going to bring up how many sides. It's going to start with a hexagon. If I just, and it'll give me a size here. If I hit cancel, if I just click and drag, it's going to give me a hexagon. And wherever I'm dragging my mouse, it's going to drag that direction. If I were to hold shift, it's going to make it straight to where the top and the bottom are flat. And so it's going to make a hexagon like that. And here's a fun thing about this tool. If I hit the up arrow, I now have 7 edges. And now I have an octagon. And so we need to have a hexagon, which is 6 edges, like a beehive. There. There. Now it's more honey-like. So hexagon, like a beehive, or as I'm dragging, I can't let go of my mouse yet though, or my trackpad. If I click up 7, 8, I can just keep adding. It's gonna start looking like a circle at some point, but I'm just adding facets. As I click the down arrow, I'm adding less. So there, it's a hexagon. It's like a beehive. I'm going to draw the shape again. But this time I've got to have a hexagon, or I just did the up arrow a couple of times, and this time I'll made an octagon. So it looks like a stop sign. So I've got an octagon. And so that's either a hexagon or an octagon. Polygon tool will make either of those. We also have to have either an equilateral triangle. The polygon tool will make an equilateral triangle. And so I'll make a different color here. I'm going to use swatches this time. And oh, click and drag. And I'm going to do less arrows. Less arrows. I've got a pentagon now. And I've got a square now. And I've got a triangle. And I've got specifically an equilateral triangle. What if I do one less? I can't do one less. It's not going to be a shape if there's less than 3 shapes. So 3 is the minimum number of sides that the polygon tool will let you have. I don't know that there is a maximum number of. I've never tried. It'll just keep making shapes until it will basically look like a circle, but it'll just have many facets to it. So that's your equilateral triangle. Again, if you were to say get the direct selection tool and drag a point up, this is not a, this is, I could make a pointy dunce cap here. That's not an equilateral triangle. Equilateral means this side and this side and this side of the triangle are equilateral. And so there, I can do either this shape or this shape, but I have to do this shape. So one of these two plus this one, plus a circle, plus a square. So I've got um, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I've got to have a box grid. We already did a box grid. It could be any box grid. So I could click and drag. By default, it's going to be, I think, a 4x4 or 4x8. But you can set that however you want. You could option click and say, I want to have, oh, when I'm doing the box grid, I could click and drag and watch what happens when I do the up and down arrows here. I'm clicking the down arrow. Look, I'm getting less rows. Rows are always the horizontal. I click the up arrow, I'm getting more rows. I click the left arrow, I'm getting less columns. I click the right arrow, I'm getting more columns. And so you can have, I mean, at a certain point, it's going to be really, I guess technically you could say, there, it's a box grid. um, and you made that shape with a box grid, but I won't give you points. And you'll go, no, I made it with the box grid tool. It's just a rectangle. There's no columns. I've got to have at least one, I got to have at least one row and at least two columns and two rows to, so this is, I got to have at least that to count. Otherwise I can't tell it's um, I can't tell it's the box grid without that. So, um, the arrows are pretty fun to add rows and columns. And so I need, and so it can have, you can color it. I've got a orange stroke and I can tell it to have a black fill, or I could reverse those. Whatever I want. Okay, so that's the box grid. Radial grid, it's the polar grid tool. And where do we find that? Polar grid tool is right underneath the rectangular grid tool. And it's very similar. I think I'll do it on top of my stop sign. It's very similar to now I wish I had Smart Guides turned on, Command U again. And when I get to the center of my, this tool, I can click and drag, and there's my polar grid tool. I'm holding Option to drag from the center and Shift. It'll make a perfect circle. And this is a polar grid. I won't want it to be red, but same thing. I can click the up arrow. It's making more rows. I want less. I'll do the down arrow. And I can do more dividers or less dividers by adding the left arrow will reduce the amount of dividers. The right arrow will increase the amount of dividers. And so that's that. And then I've made that. Right now I have no fill and no stroke. So I can say, all right, well, I want to have white stroke and or whatever. So that's the polar grid and a star. And so that's the last one I haven't done. And where's the star? And so the stars, they're all in the same spot. So I'll do the star and I'm going to move I'll move these guys up. Actually, I'm going to move this. I'll come over here for the star tool. And so with the star tool, if I just click and drag, it's going to Give me a star. If I hold shift, see as I click and drag, it'll just make a star which way I drag it. If I hold shift, it'll snap it straight. And it's going to be pretty much just this pretty sharp edge star like you might see on a flag. And then if I click and hold the command key, see I can, as I pull, I'm making it more pointy or more squishy. See that? But the thing is, once I do that, now look as I drag, I make it the same thing. It makes all the stars the same. So just so you know that. And to make it go back, you got to hold command again. Then you can kind of get some really spiky stars. And again, you can, and then the option key, I can click and drag to get that. You can option click, and you can basically, if you just say radius 1, and I'll say, what if I just set that at, I'll say 1, and radius 2, I'll set that at 2. What'll this give me? And 5 points, that's a 5-point star. And that's going to give me, whoops. I'll just delete all those. And I'm back to that other kind of star. And what else can I do? I can add the plus. Look what I get. Add the arrow, I get more points. Got a Star of David, more points, more points, more points. I can get a whole bunch of points. I can down arrow, less points. I can hit the right. And get like little pointy things. So what else can I do? I can also, once I get a star like that, I can, with the live corner widgets, I can round them. That's fun. So and I can pull, once I make a star, see I've got this guy here. I can pull in or out. So that's the inner radius, or in that there. And then this one here, this is pretty cool. I can pull this, more points, 5 points. And then this is the inner radius. I can make a sharper radius. Outer radius, inner radius, and then how many points. So pretty cool. So just your keypads can do that, or this setting here. So, so pretty cool. And then those settings are just here once you, and then this one here, that's my live corner widgets. I can also adjust these curves here as well. And then again, how many points I have. Pretty cool. So the star, that's the star tool.